WWF Smackdown was released on March 2000 in North America and April 2000 in Europe. A Japanese release came later in the summer, marking the beginning of a very successful partnership between the WWF and Yukes Interactive. The very first Smackdown game on PlayStation 1 gave fans of wrestling video games a brand new way to play WWF matches. Gone were the button combinations of Zone and Atittude, gone were the clunky looking character animations and rather slow gameplay. WWF Smackdown was a breath of fresh air that got PlayStation owners really excited. Today we're going to play a few matches of Smackdown on PS1. We'll take a look at everything the game had to offer, and we'll try to figure out what made this game so special and why many felt it was leagues better than other wrestling games available on the PlayStation. Today's video is sponsored by...
It's me, Austin!
Raid Shadow Legends. A big thanks to the guys at Raid for supporting Wrestling Bios. Raid Shadow Legends is available for iOS, Android and PC. If you enjoy games featuring turn-based combat like I do, then check out Raid using my QR code or the link in the description. There's a new boss in town, a mother trucking HYDRA with 6 different heads. Look out for the Head of Mischief. This guy directs your attacks to other heads, meaning targeting this bozo is going to be a task in itself. And then there's also the Head of Wrath. No, not that Wrath, this Wrath. He's got a bit of a temper. If you hit his head 15 times, he'll get a triple damage buff that's gonna make your day even worse. So make sure you're leveled up before taking it on. Grind out some XP and get tons of silver through the campaign to get your champions ready for the fight. And remember to select your champions wisely. I found your champions' abilities are just as important as your overall level. And that's one of the things I like about Raid, the wide range of champions and wide range of abilities you can unlock. You gotta take time to select the best team, and understanding your champion's strengths will give you an advantage. Over the holidays, Raid will have a full schedule of festive activities to also help you level up, and you'll also get a chance to grab some festive champions. And between now and January 28th, Raid's also giving away a limited edition champion, esports legend Simple. This champion will be available for new and current players. So if you use my link in the description or scan the QR code, you'll get Epic Champion Tyrell, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost and 1 ancient shard. You have 30 days to claim these bonuses, and once you use my link, you'll find your items in the inbox. Thanks again to Raid for supporting the channel, and I'll see you all in the game. WWF Smackdown was not Yukes' first wrestling game. That honour goes to NJPW Token Ritsuden, localised in North America and Europe as Power Move Pro Wrestling. I've got fond memories of Power Move Pro Wrestling, and I think I talked about this ages ago in my In Your House PS1 video, but there was a Christmas where I got WCW vs. the World, In Your House and Power Move as presents from Santa Claus, and I spent so much time playing these 3 games. Back then, I didn't know a thing about localization of games and things of that nature, but I did always find it odd that there was a New Japan logo in the game where the lion was replaced by a bulldog. Same as WCW vs. the World, I didn't understand why Jushin Liger and Terry Funk were in the game with different names. I just thought the development team were giving us knockoff wrestlers so they didn't have to pay royalties. Back to Power Move though, and Yukes' first ever wrestling game. This one was pretty limited when it came to the moves you could pull off in the ring, but it controlled really well. Area 51 here was my guy, and I remember recording matches onto the PS1 memory card with every intention of putting on 5-star matches. I'd save the match onto the memory card, which, if I recall correctly, nearly took up all the space available, and I'd never watch the match back. I'd always record a new one. It was interesting though how this was accomplished. I'm no expert, but I think it was the button presses that were being recorded, meaning when you replay your match, the PS1 was just inputting the same commands for both you and the CPU. Anyway, going off track here, Power Move Pro Wrestling was decent. I have good memories of the game, but Smackdown 1 really has no relation to Power Move other than the game sharing developers. Smackdown was not based around Power Move, nor was the Smackdown engine based on Power Move. Yukes released another wrestling game titled The Pro Wrestling as part of the Simple series. The Simple series was a line of budget price games that saw releases on everything from the Game Boy Advance all the way to the Xbox 360 and Wii U. You can instantly see the resemblance here with how the characters move and just the general look of the game. This right here is the very foundation of the SmackDown games, but I should note also that the Pro Wrestling and SmackDown 1 were in development around the same time period. The Pro Wrestling was released in Japan before SmackDown hit the United States though, and we can confirm that both games were in development at the same time because WWF Superstar names can be found in the debug menu of the Pro Wrestling. What's interesting too is the fact that the Pro Wrestling has body part fatigue indicators. This is something that Yukes wouldn't implement in a WWF game until SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. There was also a sequel to the Pro Wrestling, but we'll talk about that another time. Boot up SmackDown on your PS1 and you'll get greeted with a video showing SmackDown clips with the original iconic theme playing in the background. Press start at the title screen and then you'll get brought to the main menu. What you'll then notice is just how good the overall menu presentation is and how it closely represents the overall theme of the SmackDown TV show. Everything looks good here. You have an absolute ton of options and we're going to look at everything the game has to offer. So let's start with the roster before checking out gameplay. I'll scroll through the available characters here so you can have a look. SmackDown has 36 selectable wrestlers and you've got all your big hitters here from the Attitude Era. Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Kane, The Undertaker. You've even got Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. There's a selection of female wrestlers too. Paul Bearer is selectable for some reason. All in all, it's a good roster here for the time period. You won't be unlocking new superstars either unfortunately, but you will unlock creator wrestler parts to make WWF wrestlers. Other superstars available include Stevie Richards, the Blue Meanie, and Stephanie McMahon. We'll talk a little more about creator wrestler in a moment. Pick your superstars and here's what the entrances look like in SmackDown. You get the superstars entrance video playing on full screen while the character walks in front of the video. It was a pretty novel way of showing entrances and I didn't mind this at all at the time. It was great to see the Titantron videos even if there was a superstar walking in front of it. This is all upscaled by the way and well, the characters look okay for the time. You'll find some that look funny or a bit weird, but it's a PS1 game. It's nowhere near as bad as WCW Mayhem, and some of the characters are an improvement over WWF Warzone and WWF Attitude, in my opinion anyway. Some look good and some don't. Take a look at the standard SmackDown arena here, and really this comes down to preference if you think this looks better than Attitude's arena. Things are a lot more lively, there's a lot more colour, the stage looks great for the time and the ring looks good too, but some might say that the audience looks a little busy and the 2 or 3 frames of animation the crowd has is a little, well, it just doesn't look all that good, but overall I think SmackDown does look better than Attitude. It isn't all about how it looks though. SmackDown plays completely different to any WWF game that came before it, and this is where the game truly shines. Taking cues from the Aki wrestling games, SmackDown simplifies the controls, meaning anyone can learn how to play in a matter of seconds. Face buttons on your controller will allow you to strike, pull off grapple moves, run and counter. Shoulder buttons let you taunt, get in and out of the ring, change focus for multi-man matches, and pull off special moves. And that's all you need to know to get started. Whereas Warzone and Attitude demanded players to learn button combinations and line up your attacks perfectly with precise timing, SmackDown feels more like an arcade game where things are much more simple and generally much easier. This may sound like a downgrade, but it really isn't. SmackDown's much more basic and much more sensible control scheme results in a much more fluid and fun gameplay experience where the action is more frantic but still more enjoyable. Now, that's not to say there isn't problems to be found in the gameplay. There will be a lot of people out there who don't like the rather unrealistic quick pace of SmackDown and how matches don't really simulate what a real wrestling match plays out like, especially when it comes to recovery times. But well, if you want real wrestling, then watch a pay-per-view. SmackDown is all about fast gameplay, and after PS1 owning WWF fans had to put up with Warzone and Attitude, this game right here was a welcome change. Move animations look good, character outfits look good, everyone had their special move and all you had to do was fill up a special slot to pull it off with one button press. Superstars also had a wide range of moves that differed from wrestler to wrestler, and really, there isn't much else to say about the actual in-ring gameplay. It's easy and it's fun. That's maybe at the cost of true depth, but that's not really what Smackdown is all about. The game's sequels would add more depth and play mechanics with each installment. This is a series that got better and better over time, and for me anyway, it's just fascinating seeing where it all began. What you're seeing here is the very core of the WWF Yukes wrestling engine, and this engine would continue to evolve right into 2K series of WWE games. With this being the first entry in the Smackdown series though, you gotta keep expectations in check, especially if you plan on playing again today. I'm certainly not going to put Smackdown 1 on a pedestal like others do. It does play well and it is a good time, but I think one of the main reasons it gets so much praise is because of what came before it. The shift in gameplay really stood out after playing the Acclaim games, so I think us players back in the day were just happy to have something different. As mentioned, Smackdown would continue to get better and better. I'm sure many would agree that Smackdown 2 was better than the original. We then had the PS2 Smackdown games, with some of those still being regarded as some of the best wrestling games of all time. Smackdown absolutely destroys Attitude when it comes to game modes and match types. There's a lot to do here. Along with one-on-one tag team matches and handicap matches, you can play Battle Royals, the Royal Rumble, the King of the Ring, hardcore matches, Falls Count Anywhere matches, cage matches, survival matches, special referee matches, and I Quit matches. Special referee matches were great for messing your mates around, and trying to be a fair referee is actually way harder than you think. In regards to the Falls Count Anywhere matches and hardcore matches, there's backstage areas available and you can choose to start your match away from the ring. Weapon implementation isn't great here, but it's on par with previous games. This is something that would greatly improve over time. In I Quit matches, you'll grab a microphone and try to make your opponent say the magic words. It was nice to have this mode, but using the mic was pretty much the same as pinning your opponent. Match variety though was important in wrestling games during this time period, and you guys who watched my previous PS1 wrestling game videos would know that lack of match types could be detrimental to a game. Smackdown has enough variety to keep you going, with the sequel adding even more match types, but we'll talk about Smackdown 2 another time. Out in the main menu, we have a few modes to check out. You can create your own pay-per-view, and this mode is actually pretty interesting. Previous games would let you set out your own pay-per-view, maybe give it its own arena and let you save your event to play at a later date. But in Smackdown, the shows and matches that you book get an audience score. The better the matches, the higher the score. Your event will then enter a leaderboard where you can compare your shows, and you can also see where your matches scored in comparison to previous events. It's interesting for sure, and it's almost like a very early version of GM mode. You can also simulate matches here, so if you just want to book shows and see how that show did in terms of popularity, then you're free to do so. Belt records and rankings is where you can check out all the belt holders on your current save file, along with play data based on each individual superstar. The higher their win record, the higher their overall rank. And then you have Create a Wrestler mode. First, you'll need to set their profile. You'll then go in to change your superstar's appearance, and basically you've got a mix and match system where you can change up current superstars in the game or use some of the custom options. You can mix up male and female wrestlers, you can use some of the weird original parts added by developers. So if you ever wanted to play as Kane only he has a giant dinosaur head, then go right ahead. You can then alter your wrestler's personality. This lets you set things like a character's speciality match, along with how the CPU would control the character should you ever want to battle your own creation. Set the moves, set the abilities and fighting style, and now you're ready to take Dino Kane into the ring to take care of his older brother. Your created character is going to be incredibly limited though. Not only do you need to boost stats, but you need to unlock better moves, and that's where the season mode comes into play. So you've got a standard season mode and you've got a pre-season mode. Pre-season can only be played with your created superstar, and its main purpose is to build your superstar up by unlocking stat points. This was pretty unique at the time, and while some may see it as extra work, others will enjoy taking their created superstar on a longer journey. Each match equals 1 month. Pre-season will have you working house shows mainly to start off with, and cutscenes will play to progress your story. And once you complete the pre-season, you can take your character into the main season mode. Main season mode can also be played with a standard WWF superstar. You can even pick the current WWF champion to begin your season right at the top, and things are furthered along with cutscenes and dialogue boxes to keep things interesting. Compared to Attitude, season mode is excellent. Compared to other Smackdown games, it's just okay. But it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it gives players more than just match after match. You can even watch other matches that your character has nothing to do with. And if you really don't want to play matches at all, you can simulate your entire season. Something I like about season mode is the fact that you can see what everyone gets up to and not just your character, but on the flip side of this, sometimes your chosen character won't interact with anybody and you won't see cutscenes for your superstar. You get much more of that in pre-season mode. Another positive though is the fact that season mode will make your game completely unique, with every match and every stat getting recorded into your save file. Your save file is going to look way different to your friend's save file, and your superstar rankings will also vary greatly. And this is a good thing. WWF Smackdown on PlayStation 1 was definitely a foundation for future games to build on. Those of you who skipped this one but still played later Smackdown games will get to grips with it right away. And it's crazy how the basics of Smackdown 1 were carried over for years and years later. Yukes had an instant winner here, and they knew where to improve and where to make changes. Many would say the engine outstayed its welcome, however, and many of the later games didn't change too much, and I'd actually agree with that statement. I'm a big fan of the more unusual wrestling games, for lack of a better term. Games like WWF All-Stars, Legends of WrestleMania, even WrestleMania the arcade game, which I know a lot of people don't like. I enjoy those games, and I think that's because WWF games typically didn't deviate too much after the release of Smackdown. You can't blame Yukes or WWF either though. The Smackdown series became incredibly successful, and for a few years at least, every new edition added a whole lot of new things that kept us coming back for more. But I do think that the engine itself may have outstayed its welcome, and we could have benefited from a few other studios having a shot at the WWF license. We did get WrestleMania 21 and the Raw games on Xbox that used different studios. Mania 21 is an oddity for sure, and I'm going to cover that game very soon. In the Raw games, some people liked them, others didn't, but Raw 2 had some interesting creative options, such as using custom music for superstars, and also the creation suite itself I thought was great. I will talk about these other games in the future for sure, but I'm digressing here a little too. There's a reason why the Smackdown games were king of the mountain, and even though I may feel the games got a little repetitive after a certain amount of time, that doesn't mean others didn't enjoy them. Smackdown, Shut Your Mouth, and Here Comes the Pain are two of my all-time favourite wrestling games, and I also enjoyed Smackdown vs Raw 2006 for GM mode. Here Comes the Pain is considered by many to be the absolute cream of the crop, and all those great games can be traced right back to Smackdown on PS1. It was truly the beginning of a very successful run of games for the WWF, Yukes Interactive and publisher THQ. That'll do it for today guys. Thank you so much for watching and take care.